Hi everybody, this is your homework help video for page 171, 1 through 10. The directions for numbers 1 through 4 says to find the simple interest earned to the nearest cent for each principal, interest rate, and time. So remember the equation for simple interest is I equals PRT, or PERT. So for number 1, we're solving for the interest rate. We know the principal is $640. We're multiplying by the percent, which we write as a decimal, times the number of years, which was 2. So you can take this into chunks and multiply 640 times the percent, 0.03, and that would equal 19.2. And then you just multiply that by 2 years, and you would get 38.4, or $38.40, which is your answer. For number 2, I'm solving for I again. I know the principal was $1,500. The percent I'm going to write as a decimal of 0.0425 times the number of years, which was 4. So if I take this in chunks, I'm first going to multiply 1,500 times 0.0424, and I get 63.6. And then I multiply all of that times 4, and the answer that I would get is 254.4, or $254.40, which they rounded up to $255 in the answer. For number 3, I'm solving for I again. I know the principal is $580. The percent is 2%, so I'll write that as a decimal. But then I'm given months, 6 months. So first I have to find out how many years that would be, which will be a decimal. So 6 over 12 is equivalent to 1 over 2, which is 0.5, so half a year. So now I can take this in chunks, multiply 580 times 0.02, and I get 11.6 times 0.5, and the interest that accumulated was $5.80 because I get 5.8, and that's my answer. For number 4, kind of a similar thing, I'm given months, so I'll solve that right away. I write that as 8 over 12, which is equivalent to 2/3, and 2/3 converted into a decimal is 0.6 repeating. So you can actually round that up to 0.7 to solve this problem. So now that we have my months converted into years, the principal was $1,200. The percent was 3.9, so I'll write that as a decimal, 0.039, times the time, which was in years, which was the 0.7 that we found. So then we'll take this into chunks, 1,200 times 0.039, and we get 46.8 times 0.7. So the interest rate would be $32.76, which is a little greater than what they found here. For the answer key, they most likely kept this as exact as possible and multiplied by 0.6666. And if you use a calculator to solve that, because that would be pretty difficult to solve by hand, you would get 31.2, which is the exact answer. Alright, so the directions for number 5 and 6 say to find the simple interest paid to the nearest cent for each loan amount, interest rate, and time. So here you can see that our answers are going to be pretty big. But the equation stays the same. I have I equals PRT. My principal is $4,500. My rate was 9%, so I'll write that as 0.09. And my time was 3.5 years, so I'll write that as 3.5. So if we take this in chunks, and first I'm going to multiply 4,500 times 0.09, I get 405. And then I multiply the 0.35 onto that, and I get 1,417.5, or the interest that was accumulated was $1,417.50. For number 6, my equation is I equals PRT. My principal is $290 times the rate, which is my percent, which I'll write as 0.125. And remember, 6 months, I can write that as 0.5 because 6 months is half of a year, and my time is always written in years. So if I take this in chunks, I first have to multiply 290 times 0.125, which I get 36.25 times 0.5, so we're just cutting that in half. And we get 18.125, or when we round that, we would get $18.13 of interest accumulated. All right, number 7 and 8 are word problems. So number 7 says, Leon charged $75 at an interest rate of 12.5%. How much will Leon have to pay after 1 month if he makes no payments? So if I look, I have my principal, I have my rate, and I have my time, 1 month, which if you remember, 1 month is the same as 1 over 12, which is 0.083, so that will be my time. So then my equation is I equals PRT. My principal was $75. My rate was 0.125 because I have to write my percent as a decimal. And my time was the 0.083 because I have to write months in years. So then we'll take this in chunks, 75 times 0.125, and we get 9.375 times 0.083, and we get 0.778, which I can round to just 0.78. So this is the amount of cents of interest that he's going to be paying on his $75 charge. So now all I have to do is add my interest, 75 plus 0.78, and I get $75.78 is what he'll have to pay on his first month if he makes no payments. So kind of a similar process for number 8. Jamira, I'm not sure, these names are always so interesting, received a $3,000 car loan. She plans on paying off the loan in 2 years. At the end of 2 years, Jamara will have paid $450 in interest. What is the simple interest rate on the car loan? So in my equation, I equals PRT, now we're not solving for I, now we're solving for R, because we're looking for what is the interest rate. So the interest that was made was $450. The principal was $3,000. We don't know R, so I'm going to keep that as R, but we're still multiplying, remember. And T was 2 years. So basically what I can do is I can chunk together 3,000 times 2, and I'll get 6,000 times R equals 450. Then to get R by itself, I divide by 6,000 so that those cancel out. 450 divided by 6,000. Right off the bat, I can cancel out my zeros, so now I just have 45 over 600. And if you divide that out, you will get 0.075 was the rate, but when we write that as a percent, we move the decimal point over 2 places, and we get 7.5% as my answer. All right, number 9. Pablo has $4,200 to invest for college. A, If Pablo invests $4,200 for 3 years and earns $630, what was the simple interest rate on wherever he's investing? So for A, I equals PRT, I'm solving for R. So the interest is he's making $630. The principal is he has $4,200. I don't know the rate, so I'm going to keep that as R. And the time is 3 years. So I can chunk this together and multiply 4,200 times 3. And I'll get 12,600 times R equals 630. Then to get R by itself, I'll divide both sides by 12,600 so that those cancel out. I'll cancel out my zeros right away. So now I just have 63 over 1,260. And when I divide that out, I get 0.05. Which, when I write that as a percent, I just have to move my decimal point over, and I get 5%. So then for B, the question is, Pablo's goal is to have $5,000 after 4 years. Is this possible if he invests at a rate of return of 6%? Explain. So basically, all I'm going to do to solve this problem is use my equation I equals PRT to determine how much he'll have after 4 years at 6% return. So if his goal is to have $5,000, that's just what I'm going to tuck in the back of my head. The principal is still $4,200 because that's what he actually has. The rate was 6%, so I'll write that as 0.06, and the time is 4 years. So if I take this in chunks and I just multiply 4,200 times 0.06, I'll get 252 times 4, which is $1,008. So that's how much interest he would make on his $4,200. So really what he would have, if you add how much he made in interest, he would have $5,208. So yes, if he just invested $4,200 and left it there for 4 years, at the end of 4 years, he would have made $5,000. For number 10, the key did a really nice job of explaining the answer, but we'll go through it together. So number 10 says the table shows interest owed for a home improvement loan based on how long it takes to pay off the loan. So A is asking how much more interest is owed on $900 for 9 months than for 6 months. So A is actually a 2-part problem, and I'll solve it down here. Because if $900 is my principal, I equals 900 times, my rate is determined on the month. So first we have to solve for 9 months, which is 2.9%. So I would write this as 0.029. And it's for 9 months, so it's 9 over 12. Which if I convert that to a decimal, 9 divided by 12, I would get 0.75. So then when I multiply all of this out, 900 times 0.029, I get 26.1. And then I have to multiply that by the 0.75. And I get $19.58. But that was for 9 months. So now I have to do the same thing for 6 months. So I equals $900 is still my principal, but now my rate is actually 2.4%, which I have to write as a decimal. 0.024. And then since it's 6 months, it's half a year, so it's 0.5. Then when I multiply 900 times 0.024, I'm going to get 21.6. And multiply that by 0.5, so we're cutting that in half. And we get 10.8 or $10.80. So now since it's asking how much more interest is owed if he took 9 months to pay it off versus 6 months, is you subtract 9 months, which was $19.58 of interest, minus 6 months, which was $10.80. And that's how they got the $8.78. So if you take an extra 3 months to pay off this loan, he's owing $8 more. So it's always better to just pay it off right away. So then B is just asking you to reason through, does the interest rate increase at a constant rate? And clearly the answer is no, because at 6 months the rate is 2.4%. At 9 months it's 2.9%, so it went up by 0.5. At 12 months it's 3%, so it went up by 0.1. And at 18 months it's 3.1%, so it went up another 0.1. So no, the interest rates increasing was not at a constant rate.